time tracking itself in general has that reputation of kind of micromanagement of I'm watching what you're doing,
Yep.
making sure you're working, making sure you're productive. However, that is part of it. But there's another part of it as well, is that it to us, we look at it as a mechanism for transparency. So the employee, the person putting in the hours, there's this thing, it's called wage theft, and it's real. I'm going to be
Yes.
very,
It is
very,
very true.
and we
Yeah.
have spoken with customers of ours
Mhm.
that have tried to use certain settings to actually pull hours away from their, Amanda, you've seen it. And we've had to put safeguards in our system to make sure that the hours that people work, they get paid for.
Right.
Most employers, of course, are very very good about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in our view, the time tracking provides a system of transparency for both.
Welcome to the new chapter of the Her Resources podcast. I'm your host, Linda Misegadis, and I'm so excited to be stepping into this next season with you solo. This podcast has always been about amplifying women's voices, exploring the challenges we face in HR, leadership, and life, and sharing the tools and inspiration we need to thrive. And now, I'm taking that mission even deeper. You'll hear real conversations with bold and authentic women, as well as reflections from me on everything from pay equity and burnout to confidence, leadership, and the messy, beautiful journey of growth. This is more than just a podcast, it's a community, a space for us to learn, lead, and lift each other up. Welcome to this new beginning. This is the Her Resources Podcast. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Her Resources Podcast, where we have honest conversations about leadership culture and what it really takes to build workplaces where people thrive. I'm your host, Linda Misegadis, and today we're diving into a topic that every company talks about, but few truly master, and that's values. We've all seen those framed posters in the hallway: integrity, collaboration, innovation. But what happens when those words actually come to life? When values become part of the daily rhythm of how people work, connect, and grow together. Joining me today are two incredible guests who've done just that. Dean Matthews, CEO and founder of OnTheClock, and Amanda Bethuy, the company's HR and operations manager. Together, they've built a culture that doesn't just talk about values, they live them. And the results speak for themselves, with near zero turnover, which is unheard of these days, and a team that genuinely loves where they work. Dean and Amanda, welcome to the Her Resources Podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. We are very happy to be here and looking forward to talking.
Awesome. Well, let me tell our listeners a little bit more about our guests on the show today. Dean Matthews, as I mentioned, is the CEO and founder of OnTheClock, which is a time tracking solution built to help small businesses simplify how they manage and support their teams. Dean's leadership philosophy is rooted in servant leadership, putting people first, leading with transparency, and using data-driven insights to make fair, equitable decisions. What I love about Dean's story is that he didn't start out wanting to be a CEO. He was a hands-on developer who saw the need in the market and built a simple, powerful solution that has grown far beyond expectations. And Amanda, I'm going to relook at Beeth-way. I'm going to get Beeth-way in my head, no doubt. And Amanda Bethuy is the HR and operations manager at OnTheClock, where she leads initiatives to improve workplace processes, strengthen team culture, and build efficiencies. With more than a decade of experience across HR, operations, and talent acquisition, Amanda is passionate about collaboration, continuous improvement, and helping people do their best work. Outside of work, she enjoys time with her family and pets, reading and relaxing with coffee and good music. So let's dive in and see how these two have built something really special together. Amanda, so tell me a little bit about your pets. What, dogs, cats? Where's your preference?
We have a varied array.
Oh,
We have 11 pets.
my goodness.
So we have 4 dogs. We have 3 Great Danes and a Bull Terrier who thinks she's a Great Dane. We have 4 cats. We also have a 17-year-old leopard gecko, and we have a Goini king snake. So
Wow. Oh my
we run the
goodness. A
gamut.
vast array. Oh,
Yes.
I love it. Well, I'm an animal lover myself, although I will say I do lean more towards dogs and cats, but we do have a grand cat, and I'm pretty sure it's all we're going to get. I don't think I'm getting grandkids, so I love that grand cat to death. So
Fair.
yeah, it's absolutely. Well, Dean, let's start with you a little bit because On the Clock is such a great success story, not just because of the product, but because of the people first culture that you've built. And for those who might not know, can you share a little bit about what inspired On the Clock and what makes your team so unique?
Sure. So On the Clock is actually 21 years old now. Last year we
Wow,
celebrated our 20th. Actually, I got the mug right here. The 20th
that's
anniversary.
awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats.
So it really started for me in my previous life. I was a consultant, so I would write
Okay.
software for companies, whatever they needed: inventory control, invoicing systems, MRP, CMS systems, whatever they needed. So I had a lot of exposure to dozens and dozens of different cultures and companies, and I had the opportunity to work with pretty much everybody in the company, the C-suite up front to the hourly people out back, and really
That's
saw a
awesome.
lot of things there. Um, and I saw the good and the bad, right? So I really actually built up inside of me almost this want to not have a team because I saw the people up front complaining about the people out back that they're late and they never come to work and they're, this and that. And then the people out back, I'm friendly. So I got to talk to everybody. Thought the people up
Yeah.
front just played golf all day and were in meetings all day and didn't do any work. And I had this thing inside of me that was almost like an anti-team, even though I'm a very social person. But I really decided that once we were going to build On the Clock, that I would not have that. And
Oh,
really just to have a people first culture. And backing up to where On the Clock started 21 years ago now, it was me sitting at my kitchen table and I was reading through these accounting and small business forums. You remember those? They're still around, by
yes.
the way.
Yes, they are.
Um,
Yeah.
and I started seeing all these accountants and small business owners basically complaining that they couldn't find an online time tracking system for their employees, clock in, clock out for payroll. And really just said, I'm going to build that for them. I read through the bunch of comments for a couple hours and I have an entrepreneurial spirit. So I just literally started the next day and it was really a passion project at first. And I coded out the product. It was very simple in the beginning and put it online, got the domain name, and it really started out with one or two customers here and there, and eventually got to be 5-10 a day, and now we're sitting at about 16,000 customers,
That's
mostly here in the
amazing.
United States, and we are servicing almost 190,000 people per month. So
Wow.
so
Okay.
yeah, so that's the super abbreviated story of me and people and On the Clock and where it's at today. And now we have a team of 23. Amanda, is that
Okay.
correct?
With contractors, 23. So
23.
we
Yeah.
have um, 21 as our core staff, like our
Yeah. That's
full-time folks.
fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
I always say that management would be easy if it wasn't for the people, right?
Yeah.
So
But that's the magic, Linda. That's where the magic
Right.
happens.
it's so true. It is. It's really kind of crazy. Well, and Amanda, you joined the company, I guess, in what, about 2023, and you play an important role carrying that culture forward. So tell our listeners a little bit about your role and what drew you to On the Clock.
Yeah. So I've known about On the Clock for many years, probably 10, 12 years now. And when an opportunity presented it, and, Dean had expressed a need for more of like a formal HR and operations, just as the team was growing at that time, it's
Yeah.
always been an appreciation because they have that people first culture and that really, do what's right, even if it hurts mentality. And
Yeah. Yeah.
as we mentioned before we came on, my background is in the very much larger corporate enterprise healthcare industry for the most part. Um, and just having the appeal of like a small, family type business, moving into
Yeah.
SaaS was a big jump, but
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
one that
Yeah.
I've made and never looked back. So
That is
it's been
awesome.
wonderful.
Oh, I love it. Well, and Dean, you kind of bootstrapped this company, right? I mean, and you've scaled it past $1 million in recurring revenue. And so, at what point, though, for you, did you realize that success wasn't just about the technology? Because, that you really needed that strong, intentionally designed people structure to really support your growth.
Sure. That happened coming up on about 10 years ago when we first brought on Samantha, who's still with us today.
Okay.
I talk about her all the time. Poor girl. But really started to realize that this was something that needed more attention that I could give it myself. And, Amanda, my brother came on board as well right around that time. And we came to the realization that we really needed somebody that could talk with customers and provide that support. So she came
That
on
makes
in
sense.
support to be that front line to the customers. And really, she was the first seed to that department, which now is a huge part of our success. We have closing in on that 4.8, 4.9 stars in support,
That's
which is
awesome.
phenomenal. That in the industry, that
Yeah,
is world class.
absolutely.
We answer the phone when you call. That's a big deal.
That is a big deal. That is, absolutely.
Yeah, and our response times are extremely fast. Our supports, the department is Noah runs it. He does an amazing job. Actually, Amanda is his leader, and they over the last few years have really scaled it to new heights.
I have exciting news. The Her Resources podcast is opening sponsorships. If your brand supports women in HR and leadership, think talent, well being, learning, pay equity, coaching, productivity, or mission driven tech. This is your moment. Our listeners are decision makers and change makers who show up for real conversations and practical tools every week. We offer flexible options, pre-roll or mid-roll host reads, series sponsorships, and thought leadership integrations that highlight your story without the fluff. Ready to connect with a highly engaged audience and grow with us? Email contact@herresourcespodcast.com and put sponsorship in the subject line. I can't wait to collaborate. That is so incredible. Well, and I'm just kind of curious, Amanda, when you came in, it sounds like Dean already had these core values kind of defined. And you've really helped kind of now bring them to life. But how did those early values really resonate with you and the team? And how have they evolved as On the Clock has continued to grow?
That's a great question. I think everybody had kind of that core mentality. We are very transparent. So even I know folks will reach out if we had a new position open, and I've heard folks ask people on our team, well, we see these postings on social media, but tell us like the real deal.
Right.
How is it really like behind the scenes? And it's really rewarding when it's not my voice saying, no, this is what you see, this is what you get, this is how we
Yeah.
are. So, having that camaraderie, that transparency, but also getting people to understand like HR isn't bad. Like, we're not always here handing out pink slips.
Yes.
Like,
Right.
sometimes, you have an advocate, you have rules in place, and you also have resources in place. So, just getting people to get educated and understand, the way HR is here, how,
Yeah.
it does differ a little bit in every organization.
It does.
So,
It
how does
does.
it fit
Yeah.
that company's core values? How can you reflect properly and just make sure that you are, doing your best work, but also doing the company's best work? So,
Yeah.
some
HR gets a
education,
bad
some
rap
relationship.
sometimes out there. Yeah, no,
They
you're
do.
right. Education, relationships, and HR has gotten a bad rap over the years. I think, it's definitely viewed as sometimes in the wrong way. And I think that it
Mhm.
is very much focused in on like that you are just there to do the company's dirty work, right? That it's not really about the strategy and the support and the relationships behind the scenes. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think that
Absolutely.
transparency really helps,
Yeah.
educating people on why are we doing this, not just handing out an edict and saying, here, do this.
I think that is so important. And Dean, I'm curious because you have really built the company around trust and transparency. And I mean, but you are selling a time tracking tool, right? And so that by nature sounds as if we're tracking people's time, right? Which we are. And it's important and there's a reason for it. So, how do you kind of balance using that data to empower people rather than micromanage them?
Yeah, so you are actually onto an extremely interesting subject for me. I know it sounds nerdy, we nerd out on things, but um, time tracking itself in general has that reputation of kind of micromanagement of I'm watching what you're doing,
Yep.
making sure you're working, making sure you're productive. However, that is part of it. But there's another part of it as well, is that it to us, we look at it as a mechanism for transparency. So the employee, the person putting in the hours, there's this thing, it's called wage theft, and it's real. I'm going to be
Yes.
very,
It is
very,
very true.
and we
Yeah.
have spoken with customers of ours
Mhm.
that have tried to use certain settings to actually pull hours away from their, Amanda, you've seen it. And we've had to put safeguards in our system to to make sure that the hours that people work, they get paid for.
Right.
Most employers, of course, are very very good about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But in our view, the time tracking provides a system of transparency for
Mhm.
both.
Yeah.
Um, uh, this idea of tracking your time to make sure you're productive. Yeah, for one thing, time tracking and productivity are two completely different things.
Totally
Just because
different.
I
I
clock
agree.
in does not mean I'm working. Yeah, it doesn't.
That is absolutely true.
So we look at it as a transparency system for both sides. So
Yeah.
the employee can log in and see how many PTO hours they have left, see how many days they've taken off, how many hours they're due, and
Yeah.
to verify that they are actually getting paid properly for these hours
Mhm.
and their time off is being tracked and paid out or used accordingly, and that they are
Yeah.
actually getting everything that they're due and that they were promised when they
Right.
started the job.
There's
So
something empowering about that, right, as an employee, because it's like if you can view it through the right lens, if as the
yes,
employee, I can see that, I have visibility into it, I feel empowered and I feel like I can trust my employer when I have visibility, right?
yeah. So we try to flip it around and actually view it through, like you said, Linda, that lens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talk to customers. I also talk to a lot of employees of customers as well. And a lot of times when you go into that conversation and you ask, well, how's the system going for you?
Mhm.
You might expect, oh, they're tracking my hours, this type of thing. But the feedback I'm getting from, I would probably say more than half of employees are that it allows me to have, they're using different words, but that allows me to have transparency and to know what I'm working is actually getting paid. And they talk about how easy it is. And then I
Yeah.
don't have to write hours down or send text messages or fill out spreadsheets and old school punch clock and those types of
Yeah.
things. So I'd say more than half the employees of our customers view it in a positive light. And we are looking to actually continue to position it to
Mhm.
employees as a positive, not a
Yes.
negative aspect. It's really
I
about
like
the
that.
lens, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Well, and I think too, but to your other point is that there's a compliance component to this from both sides, right? I mean, the employee needs to have a level of compliance to the company, but the company also needs to ensure that they're in compliance as
Mhm.
well. And the way for employees to kind of have that visibility for checks and balances is to have access to their own data and to be able to see what's going on, and that really kind of helps create a little bit of that balance.
100%.
Are you ready to take your podcast to the next level? Let LJM Productions help you sound your best. We specialize in podcast editing, production, audio restoration, and mixing, ensuring every episode is polished, professional, and ready to wow your audience. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned podcaster, we'll handle the technical details so you can focus on sharing your voice. Partner with LJM Productions today and hear the difference.
I'm curious too, along those lines, my feeling is when it comes to this as well, and I'm curious your thoughts from both of you, is that time data actually has a very interesting story in it as well, if you know how to utilize the data properly, right? So if you're starting to look at, absenteeism rates, or if you start to see, I don't know, employees coming in late or calling out all the time, you can start to tell a story around all of that, especially in human resources, right? I mean, if you're analyzing that information, maybe you have a wellness issue, right? Like, why are my employees sick all the time? Is there something going on there? Or is there a management issue happening? Like, why is my employee call in all the time? Is there something that's happening here that's causing that? And so it starts to tell a story. I'm curious from both of your perspectives, like what your thoughts are on that and how you're using the data as well.
Yeah. So currently we are not, but we have lots of ideas, especially with AI coming out now, or not
Oh
coming
gosh,
out,
yeah. Mhm. Right.
to exactly what you're talking about, looking for
Yeah.
uh, kind of a pattern that, let's say the employee has a track record for 6 months
Mhm.
of always clocking in at 8 a.m. and always clocking out for break or lunch at a certain time. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden they shift that. Maybe they're coming in
Right.
late or they're taking their break for a shorter period or a longer period of time. That data can be mapped, can be mapped a lot of times back to something that they're dealing with. Um,
Absolutely.
so that we're looking at ways to take that and start to uh, point AI at it in a safe, respectable manner. Of course, guardrails is a
Right.
huge thing
Yeah.
we're worried about, and we're going to be working on. And then extract different points out of there that might indicate something. Other tools that we're building into the product are feedback loops, so
Mhm.
managers can get direct feedback. How was your shift today? Great, okay, horrible,
Right.
and then we can start to track that over time as well. So managers and leaders can then have a dashboard of what their team looks like, not only from the time data, but from actual feedback that the team has given, and then
Yeah.
summarized in a dashboard fashion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Well, and Amanda, when you look at it through an HR lens, what are what is your experience, not just even at On the Clock, but just in human resources, kind of, looking at trend analysis and trend data can tell a very compelling story about what's going on within an organization. Have you used data in your past life as well, or even with the work you're doing today?
I have. So I also, part of my background within things are analytics. So I do love data.
Yeah.
And I think, so have, I always tell my teams the data is brutally honest. It will
Right.
never lie to you as long as it's clean. So
Yeah.
the cleaner
That's
data
right.
you have, the cleaner truth you have.
Yes.
Um, and the biggest piece with that is like, don't be afraid to have an appropriate conversation and letting folks know, like, you don't want to be overly, you know, inquisitive into their business, but letting them know, like,
Yeah.
they have a safe space here. If there's something that you'd like to talk about, like, you're not alone. We have, EAP resources. We have different resources in place for you, whether or not your
Yeah.
company offers them, whether it's something that you just get from, your local area that's a free resource that can be passed along to those who, whether they need it right now or when
Mhm.
they need it, but that knowing it's there for them and not just making assumptions. So really digging in and getting that clear picture because we all have natural bias, right?
Yes.
And I don't want to put what I perceive to be your story is into your
Mhm.
book.
I
So
like that.
really,
Yeah.
you know, letting you be the author of your own story, but knowing that I'm here to support and help you. I
Yeah.
think from a data perspective, one thing that we like to do because we have one-on-ones
Mhm.
weekly or biweekly, and tying along with that transparency, we have quarterly connect and reflect. So we're connecting over the previous quarter and reflecting on our actions,
I
for
like
better,
that.
for worse. And then that ties into our annual connect and reflect. And one thing we started doing this year from a data point was, instead of doing like an annual or even,
Mm-hmm.
semi-annual ENPS, we actually send them out quarterly at the same time as how we ask
Okay.
how things are going. So we have the team's ability to say, this is how Dean feels that things are going. And then
Sure.
we have the anonymous ENPS, where I tell folks, like, I don't know who you are. I'm not digging in to look at your writing style. And I promise you, I don't know that Dean wrote that. But they
Right.
have that level of ability to convey. So going with transparency, but also having that comfort zone to where they
Yeah.
can feel free to speak. My goal is to get the data to match. If you give it a 9, I should see a 9 on your EMPS. If I
Yeah.
see a 9, then I see a 5, say, well, there's a gap here. So how can we take that data and feedback and bring it back and work through to understand and digest what's really going on and how we can better support your story?
I like
So
that.
that's one initiative that we've pivoted to doing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and I'm curious, Dean, how do you, as a leader, like, what do you do when you get that negative feedback? Does it make you angry? It's like, what do you do with it? Like, how do you process that? Because I think that sometimes when we start asking employees questions, we don't always like what they have to say, and
Yeah.
it's how we process it, right? So I'm curious, like, what's your approach in dealing with that? Because that's a big part of building accountability and trust and transparency too, right? Is that natural feedback? So.
Oh, 100%. And to Amanda's point, we want true, authentic feedback, especially the negative part.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, your natural instinct might be to get angry or get upset or get worried. But I look at it, and Amanda and I both look at it as an opportunity to better our organization and the culture. So if we see that somebody is struggling, we don't go directly to the, let's, fire them type situation.
right.
We will go and look and say, what can we do to turn that 5 into a 9? Where are we failing? What are we doing wrong in the
Yeah,
environment? Because if it's happening with one person, odds are that it's a pattern that can happen elsewhere. And going back to the original thing we talked about with myself, with the team, it's like, I do
yeah,
not want that. I want this to be a place that people go home feeling good about their work, that they made a difference,
yeah,
and that they're acknowledged for their efforts, and they're paid properly as well, right? So
yep.
that we invite negative feedback. Of course, I would prefer that there is none, but not
Right.
because
Wouldn't we
people
all?
aren't telling us,
Yeah,
because there is no reason to provide negative feedback. Would be preferable, but I want
absolutely.
the honesty and I want the transparency, especially if it's negative, because then we can take it and we have something to work on. It gives us a target and a goal.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I like that for sure. Well, and you have like nearly a near zero turnover, which is kind of like the holy grail of
yeah.
leadership. So, what do you think that makes people want to stay? Is it the autonomy? Is it recognition? Like, is it something deeper? What do you think is making them want to stay and work for your organization?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll start this, and Amanda, I'll let you finish it. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Yeah.
I was going to suggest.
So, because she's a big part of this as well, and I do not want to
Yeah.
dominate the conversation. I think the biggest thing for myself, which is really just doing my absolute best to take those values and actually think about them
Yeah.
when we're hiring. So a big part of my role when we're hiring is I look for value alignment.
Okay.
Whether it's asking questions or just observing or watching how people react to
Hmm.
different questions, to make sure the values are lined up before the person even starts.
Sure.
And then also when we're making decisions, especially like an HR or a people type decision that might have to do with maybe it's benefits or time off or work from home policy, to actually run the values through that as a checklist. Are we violating any of our values here? And really just to take those and use them as a framework that we should run almost every decision, not every decision, but a lot of decisions, particularly the ones that involve people, which a lot of times it does.
Right.
And really just run it through them and make sure they align. So that was my half. And Amanda, what's your take?
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I also I'm going to fall back on kind of my tried and true, hiring and recruiting over the years. I always
Yeah.
look for the right person, right place, and right time, because I feel like, it might be kind of cliche, but all the years I've been, working in the industry, like that was my line kind of before it was cool. And it's very true, because if you are pulling in a person, or you're making a hasty hire, or pulling in a person where, you just came to me and said, Amanda, I'm really looking for ABC out of a new opportunity. What's really important to you in your new role? And the position you just hired in for or trying to apply for is X, Y, and Z. And it doesn't
Right.
fit. Why am I going to bring you into something that's a complete opposite with what you just told me was really important to you? So
Yeah.
really looking for that alignment. Not only can you do the job, do you have the right skills? Maybe you don't have the exact kind of job responsibilities on paper, but we can
Sure.
teach you those. You have the right
I
skills.
feel that way.
You have the
Yeah.
right perspective, the right attitude, the right persona to fit in with our team and our culture.
Yes.
And, things can be learned.
I
I've done a
agree.
lot of process improvement over the years. So even looking internally at your teams and saying, what is this person really great at?
Yeah.
Just kind of picking on our support. Noah tried his hand at sales. And this was before I got there. And he was like, I really want to do sales. He's like, I do not like sales.
Yeah.
Things like that is not for me. But
Nope.
then he
Sales are
moves back
hard.
into support. He's now a support manager.
Yeah.
Some of
Yeah.
our support team are doing side projects and branching off into different areas, whether it be in marketing, whether it be in payroll implementation, these different areas that they really shine in, that their skills shine, that they can add value to. So, looking at your roles within an organization and saying, do I have 3 people doing one person's job? Or can I have one person do that job really well and own it? So,
Yeah.
a big proponent of like cross training. So you're not
Yes.
the only one, and they're not calling you on a Saturday to say, Linda, how do we do
Right.
this? Because
Yeah.
only Linda knows.
That's
Or,
right.
Linda's really great at A, and we're going to have her over here doing H. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
No, it
So,
does. I love everything you said there, because it really is, skills can be taught, right? Unless, I'm hiring a doctor, or a lawyer, skills can be taught. And so, but finding that right cultural fit is so important, right? To align with the organizational goals and to make sure that it's a good fit. Because as we all know, money is temporary as well. So I
mhm,
agree with what you said, Dean. You've got to make sure that you're paying fair and equitable
Mm-hmm.
wages. But oftentimes, if it becomes a money issue for someone, there's something deeper there. Generally, rarely is it really about the money. There's something else that's driving that frustration, or where they're coming from that perspective. And I love what you said there, Amanda, too, in like the cross training and the support, because employees who feel supported, who are given the right skills, who are given opportunities, and then opportunities to fail, because it sounds like for Noah, he learned that sales is not for everyone, but it's not like then, well, sorry, Noah, thanks for trying, and now move on out. It was, you tried it, you gave him that opportunity, and then he found what he really is really great at and has been allowed to thrive. So what a fantastic environment that you all have created there. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I
I
love it.
love
I love
seeing
it.
people move up into the right with their careers. It's an honor, literally, to see that happen. And it's happened quite a few times at our little shop. So
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
even just off the top of my head, Noah, Samantha, Alicia, she's a part of billing.
yeah.
She's working in payroll. Like, areas that they can thrive in and that they get really successful in.
Hey everyone, we're the Her Resources podcast, where women share real stories, real lessons, and the resources that help them succeed. We're always looking for inspiring women, business leaders, creatives, educators, and changemakers who want to share their journey and empower others. If that sounds like you, we'd love to hear your story. Reach out to us at contact@herresourcespodcast.com and let's start the conversation. Well, Dean, from a leadership perspective, how do you ensure that those values continue to guide decision making as you scale? Because it sounds like the organization has continued to grow. You've been around for a long time, but you clearly have visions of growing out the organization. How do you make sure that you keep everything aligned?
Sure. I think the biggest thing is we do talk about our values, and I try to keep them front and center. Uh, we just got them on poster boards. We got them a week or two back, so we are hanging them up. I don't want not. We're not trying to be the poster child of values, but we're literally hanging them on the wall. But
it's good.
There's a real what would I see? There's true value to actually putting things in a place where people see them. I can even remember when I was young, there are certain little plaques my mom had throughout the house.
Oh, for sure.
And those shaped me as an adult because I saw them every single day.
So true.
The posters are just one small component, but to scaling it, I think it's just it's starting by looking for that value alignment when we bring somebody in.
Right.
And then two is bringing the values into conversations. We do that. I would like to actually, for next year, Amanda and I will be working on bringing that even more into decisions that we make as an organization, referencing our values often. And then as we're bringing somebody up through the ranks, like for instance, Noah, or even Sylvester's, he's made several jumps in the last few years. We're bringing them up to make sure that that person is still in alignment and still looking to the values when they're making decisions. So it's really like a trickle down effect, right? So, if leadership is not exhibiting those traits, you definitely cannot expect, everybody else in the organization to exhibit those. So embodying them, talking about them, hanging them on the walls, I mean, they're all little things, but little things add up to be a really big thing over time. There's a compounding interest to all of that.
Yeah, no, that's really true. And I know, Amanda, you kind of love to focus on making values tangible, right? So turning those big ideas into daily habits. So talk a little bit about how do those values really kind of show up in the way that you hire, onboard, and even how you run your team meetings?
Yeah. I think, like we talked about before, transparency is a big one. You shouldn't walk into a quarterly or annual connect and say, well, that's a surprise, or you don't want to be working with a leader who's, Linda, 9 months ago, you had this day and we're just now
that drives me
it.
crazy when that happens. Yes.
But at the flip side, we also have a accountability to our people and to our leaders, even working as HR leaders ourselves to say, did I share this with you? There's, a problem, or there's something that's been bothering me, but you didn't help me with it, but did I speak up? So, kind of sharing the fact that we're happy to help. The answer is not always going to be yes. We would love for it to be.
Yeah.
But we try to make yeses where we can. And, we do fun things. And we have snacks. We love to eat. They get lunch every Thursday. We just did trivia night last night.
How fun.
A lot of the group was there. So, we get to have those fun things where we can bond as a group, kind of get us out of our comfort zone. So it may be something simple as doing a randomizer wheel to pick the groups. Yeah. So you have somebody from development working with someone from support who's working with someone from, on my team. and having people that don't work within the day-to-day. So really trying to break down those silos for folks
Yeah.
and, let them know like work can be enjoyable. We spend a lot of time at work. So,
Yes, we do.
you know,
Yeah,
this becomes kind of our second family and
absolutely.
just really making sure that if we can't check all the boxes, we can check as many as
Mhm.
we can. And we
Yeah,
we go home knowing that we made that difference and that positive difference.
I
Gave
like
somebody
that.
the opportunity to kind of fulfill their why. So,
That is so important. A colleague of mine said the other day that the whole idea of work-life balance is just ridiculous. It's work-life integration
Oh yeah.
because if you said balance, that would imply it's a 50-50 split, right? But that's not true because sometimes work wins, sometimes life wins. But if you think about it through work-life integration, and that's what you've built there is really it's a culture, it's a family type of feeling where there is a blend there. There's your work life, there's your home life, but there's also the blending of the two together that makes you feel comfortable and makes you feel good about showing up every day, right?
yeah. And I mean
Yeah, I love it.
that's true. That's where, if you have to ask that person, "Hey, Linda, I know we have this big project deadline coming up. Would you mind staying a little bit later?" Your
Yeah,
your team member is more inclined to say, "Yeah, no, like, let we're in this together. Let's get this
so
done
true.
together." Instead of,
Yeah,
it's 5 o'clock, like that's time to hit
that's
that
right.
punch
I'm
clock.
going
So
home. Sorry. Yeah, no, very
yeah,
true. I like that. Well, and I think that this conversation has really been a great reminder that culture doesn't happen by accident. I think that we like to throw the word culture around so much. There's so much of that going on these days. It's like we talk about it, but it's really built with intention in every day, right? And what you do and the action. So, Dean, what's one strategic step that leaders can take today that really kind of help embed their company values into real decision making?
Sure. Well, I will slightly argue with you that cultures don't accidentally happen because they will happen regardless of whether the leaders are involved or not.
That's
um,
fair. That is true. You're right. Good or bad. You're right because
yes.
that's a
mhm,
very good point. Yes. Yeah.
And the worst case scenario is where you have three or four or five cultures that are operating in the same building
That
and
is
sometimes
true,
on the
which
same
does
team.
happen.
And I've
Yeah.
seen that before, and it never turns out good.
No, that's a really good call out.
Yeah, I honestly, I think probably the biggest thing is the very first thing that a organization that the leaders of an organization need to do is define their values. You're not creating them, but you don't create these. These are things that you already have. It's really just uncovering them and writing them down. Um,
Yeah.
for us, and this is what I would recommend for anybody, is you start with generally whoever the leader or leaders of the organization are. Write down what's important to you.
Mhm.
In particular that relates to work and business and the people
Sure.
at work. But what I did also when we did our values, probably about 8 years ago, I went around and I talked to everybody. And I didn't necessarily say we're building our values here. I just said, what's
Mhm.
important to you? So I sat down with
Yeah.
Amanda and Alicia, and I just, in conversation, I'd say, what's important to you
Yeah.
here? Or I'd notice things and I write them down. And then this took about 4 or 5 months. So it wasn't something that we just did overnight and
Sure.
took the time, wrote them down, looked at them for about a month, and then we
Mhm.
made them official. So that's the very first step is to
Yeah.
actually define, get them written down. Um,
Great
and
idea.
so many companies are not doing that, or they're just coming up with,
It's true.
nonsense values, that,
Yes.
we should make an impact, we should, yeah, but are those real?
Right. What does
You
that
know,
mean? Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
I could just do a Google search for corporate values and you're going to find all these nonsense values that
Yeah.
nobody listens to.
No.
Nobody knows them. So writing
No.
them down is the very first thing. And then I would say the very next thing is put them in public places, put them on your website, on your
Yes.
walls. That sounds cliche, but it does matter.
It does.
But then the third thing is like actually reference them when you're making decisions or when you're announcing why you did something over why you didn't do something, in a
Yeah.
meeting or something. Just actually start applying them to your actual work. And those
I
three
like it.
steps, they sound simple, but they're actually relatively hard to do, because you have to establish a pattern of doing
that's
that
true.
that endures years, right? You can't just do it
Yeah.
for a month.
No.
It has to become part of your daily routine. So, get your values down, put a sticky note on your monitor, the leaders of the company that says, here are my values, and then make sure you talk about them and actually use them and demonstrate
Yeah.
that they are actually your values.
I
So,
like that, and they shouldn't change all the time, right? I mean,
no,
because values are not intended to be a quarterly change or an annual change. I mean, either these are your core values or they aren't, right? So I think that's really
agreed.
important as well. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
I
So
like that. Yeah, Amanda, what's like one practical thing that leaders or HR professionals can do right now to make their company values more visible and real for employees? So Dean's called out a couple of things like, making them visible, incorporating them in. But from an HR perspective, what are some things that you can help HR leaders think about? How do they actually incorporate those company values?
Yeah, and I would say consistency with them. Not everything
Mm-hmm.
requires money.
Right.
As HR, what are we doing? Sometimes we're wearing a lot of hats or, we're
True.
putting out fires. And there's always a big concept of, well, we don't have time for this.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you not have time for it? You need to make time for it. So if you just go into it with intent and you go into your day, you know, even taking a moment like you're getting your coffee, your tea, what have you, your water,
Sure.
but you just start your day with intent and consistency. So, I'll tell people everybody has the same tools, the same resources offered to them. You don't want to be known as the organization where, okay, we have these nice, shiny values and we have, this relationship where, it's maybe not the best culture, maybe not the
Sure.
best, living of our values. But once a year, we're going to dust them off for Employee Appreciation Week,
Right.
you know? And it's like, okay, the week's
Yeah.
over. Like, okay.
That's true. We see it happen. Yeah.
And so, I hear this and it goes across different topics. So we don't have time for training or we don't have time for this. You don't have
Right.
time not to because if people are your core and
Mhm.
people are your core values, then your core values should align around your people.
Yeah.
Then you need to make time because if you don't consider them to be important or
Mhm.
important enough to warrant time on your calendar, then how are people who you're supporting or that you're leading going to feel?
mhm.
Well,
Absolutely.
if we can't make them, then if she doesn't have time, I definitely don't have time.
So
So,
true. Yeah. No, it is. I really like that. Well, Tina and Amanda, I want to thank you both so much for really sharing your story and your insights. On the Clock sounds like such a great example of how intentional leadership and strong values can really transform how people work. And I think that's so important in the environment that we're in today, because it's not just about, for employees or for people in general, it's not about just where they work. It's really about how they feel about where they work. And that really ties back into your brand, your market, the support, and how they're out there talking about your products and your services as well, right? So, um, for our listeners, you can learn more about On the Clock and connect with today's guests, Dean Matthews and Amanda. How can our guests get a hold of both of you today?
Go ahead, Amanda.
oh, I was going to
For
say,
you.
for me, I'm on LinkedIn. I always appreciate making connections with folks. There's a lot of folks over the years that I've just made connections with, and I believe that you're going to be sharing that with everyone.
Absolutely.
You
Yep.
know,
We'll put it
we're
all in the
always
show notes. Yeah.
always glad. I mean, we have a very simple email. It's amanda@ontheclock.com. So, we love connecting with people and building people and, building relationships with folks. So kind of paying it forward and seeing how we can help.
I love it. And Dean, what about you? And how can they find out more about On the Clock?
Sure. The best way for me personally would be LinkedIn, similar to Amanda. Dean Matthews, 1T. I'm sure you'll link to it in the show too.
We sure will.
Um, And email is the same as Amanda, Dean at OnTheClock.com. And you can go to our website to find out more. You can go to the About Us section. You can see us and read some bios on us. Connect with us there. LinkedIn posts or LinkedIn links are there as well. And that's probably the best way for me and for our company. And yeah.
Awesome.
And I did just want to say, Linda, I would like to give a shout out to her resources podcast. Once we started talking a while back, I subscribed to you, the Her Resources podcast, and I've listened to several of them. I actually listened to, I think, the latest one last night, which is on your founding. So that was really interesting when you guys started. So I'm always interested in how things start, and that gave some really neat insights on, how the fundamentals and the challenges you had in the very beginning. And I would recommend to any listeners today, check out Her Resources podcast and subscribe today. It's a really good one.
Thank you so much.
I'm a few in, and I'm going to definitely be following from now on.
Thank you so much, Dean. And it is really important to us to make those connections. And really, the platform was designed to share with all of our listeners out there and to bring stories forward, especially stories of everyday people who are doing incredible things out there whose voices maybe aren't always heard. And so it is really important. So I really appreciate that shout out for sure. And for all of our listeners out there, if you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did, please follow the Her Resources podcast, leave us a review, share the conversation with a leader who's ready to turn their company values from words into ways of working as well. So I'm Linda Misegadis, and thank you for joining me, and I'll see everybody next time. Thanks, Dean and Amanda.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Her Resources podcast, where women's voices, leadership, and growth take center stage. As your host, I'm here to remind you that the journey isn't always easy, but it is always worth it. Every step you take to build confidence, create impact, or use your voice is part of a much bigger story. It's the one that inspires others to do the same. If this episode spoke to you, I'd love it if you subscribed, left a review, or shared it with another woman who's ready to step into her power. And as always, thank you for being a part of this community. Together, we're not just changing conversations, we're changing the future.